Kalan knew the scent of his home, Oakhaven, better than his own hands. It was a mix of pine trees, fresh soil, and the sweet smoke of applewood from every hearth. Oakhaven wasn't just a village. It was a sacred trust, a peaceful haven carved from the wilderness, built by his ancestors and defended by his sword. He was its champion, a man whose shadow alone could scare off bandits. But his heart, hidden beneath his armor, belonged to Alara, the healer whose laughter was the village's sweetest melody. Their love wasn't a fiery passion from stories, but something steadier, like the slow-strung growth of the giant oak tree their home was named after. It was built on quiet glances, held hands during winter storms, and the unspoken truth that they were the future of Oakhaven. They were to be married in the spring, a day Kalon looked forward to with a surprising tenderness. He'd often find himself polishing the silver armband he'd spent 3 months of patrol wages on for her. It was a small gift compared to the light in her eyes, but it was his. This contentment, this warm cloak of happiness, blinded him to a growing chill. It wasn't the wind, but the man he called Brother Malek. They had fought side by side since they were boys, their bond sealed in shared scars and near-death escapes. Malek, with his quick wit and even quicker blade, was the shadow to Kalen's light. Kalen trusted him completely, an instinct he never questioned. He never saw the envy festering beneath Malek's easy smile, a resentment that grew with every praise Kalen received, and every loving look Ilara gave him. Malek also loved the healer, a silent, obsessive love that twisted into hatred when he realized she would never see him as more than Kalen's shadow. This blindness, born from love and loyalty, doomed them all. Rumors of the Iron Horde began to drift down from the north, tales of a marauding army that left only scorched earth behind. Kalon the Protector immediately started fortifying the village, drilling the militia, and setting up war. His focus was absolute. He never saw Malek's late-night meetings with strangers on the village outskirts. He never questioned why Malek insisted on taking the Western Watch. The weakest point, arguing his cunning was better suited for it. The betrayal wasn't a quick knife in the dark. It was a slow, agonizing unraveling. 3 days later, leagues away, Kalen saw a plume of oily black smoke staining the sky in the direction of Oakhaven. The sight stopped his heart before kicking it into a frantic, terrifying rhythm. He pushed his men to their limits on the journey back, the horses foaming, their lungs burning. They burst through the trees at twilight to a scene that would be forever burned into Kalan's memory. Oakhaven was a slaughterhouse. The great oak was a monstrous torch, its flames lighting up the massacre of his people. The Iron Horde was there, barbaric warriors in jagged metal, finishing their grim work. But the defenses hadn't just fallen, they had been opened from within. Kalen roared, a sound more animal than human, and threw himself into the fight. His blade was a blur of vengeance, cutting through armor and bone with a berserker's rage. His only thought was to reach the healing halls, to find Elara. He carved a bloody path toward the center of the village, his eyes scanning the carnage, praying to gods he'd long forgotten that she was safe. He found her near the smoldering ruins of the apothecary. She hadn't hidden, she had fallen, her body draped protectively over a child she'd tried to shield. The light was gone from her eyes, and the silver armband he'd given her was missing from her wrist. The world turned gray. The sounds of battle faded to a muffled drone as he fell to his knees beside her. His strength vanished, his hands shaking as he brushed a lock of hair from her cheek. A silent scream built in his chest, too big for his throat. It was then, through the haze of grief, that he saw him. He wasn't wearing village leather, but the heavy spiked armor of an Iron Horde leader. He wasn't fighting, he was directing the slaughter. There was no shame in his eyes, no remorse, only a cold, satisfied glitter. The grief in Kellen's soul instantly transformed into volcanic rage, a pure hatred pumping through his veins. He rose, leaving Ilara with a whispered promise that was more curse than prayer, and charged toward his former brother, screaming his name. He cut down two warriors without a second thought, his eyes locked on Mal, who drew his own sword, the very blade Kalan had sharpened for him just a week ago, with a smirk. They clashed amidst the embers, steel ringing out over the screams of the dying. It wasn't a duel of skill, but of raw emotion. Malek was quick, his strikes venomous, taunting Kalan with every parry. He whispered terrible truths: how easy it had been, how Ilara had called for Kalan at the end, and how Malek had been the one to answer. Kalan fought like a man possessed, absorbing wounds he didn't feel, his technique abandoned for sheer, overwhelming violence. He fell, choking on blood and ash, his vision blurring. He watched Malik loom over him, the flames twisting his former friend's face into a demon's mask. Malik leaned down, his breath reeking of betrayal, and murmured, "She was never yours to keep, brother, and now you have nothing." Then he turned and walked away into the fiery night, leaving Kalan to die amidst the ruins of everything he loved. Darkness took him, but cruelly, death did not. Kalan awoke hours, maybe days later, under a cold gray sky. The bodies of his kin had shielded him from the enemy's final sweeps. He dragged himself free, a broken man in a graveyard of memories. He crawled to where Ilara lay and dug a grave with his bare hands in the scorched earth beneath the skeleton of the great oak. He buried her there, placing his own dagger in her cold hands, having nothing else left to give. He did not cry. The ability to weep had died with her. As the sun finally broke through the smoke-choked horizon, Kalan stood. He was no longer the protector. The man who loved peace and dreamed of a family was gone, burned away in the fire of betrayal. He stripped armor from a fallen horde warrior, strapping the jagged metal plates over his own torn leathers. He scavenged a heavy, blackened battle axe from the debris. He turned his back on the only home he had ever known, a lone figure walking away from the sunrise into the shadows of the west. He followed the tracks of an army, his heart a cavern of ice, with only one ember left, burning a singular, all-consuming need to find the man who wore his dead wife's armband and bring upon him a ruin 10 times worse than what had befallen Oakhaven. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tales from worlds of fantasy and adventure. We'll see you in the next one.